Good afternoon. So this one's more of a summary, particularly for the Nihilist Association of Australia. The association is only new. It comes on the back of a response to the problem of nihilism, and the response to nihilism is transcendental seduction. So that's what lends weight to the idea of acknowledging nihilism. The fact that you've got to engage with values. So this is a subjective affair. So for all of the history of philosophy and for all of its subjectivism, we've outlined a particular problem that works around values, application of values, status of values, values as phenomenon, values as need, values as intuitive, and values as process, planning, etc. So to start with, Nihilist Association of Australia. Australia because we're in Australia. Association because there will be more than one person who identifies the issues around nihilism, but is not going to be what I've called a passive nihilist. So that is, continue on regardless of the nihilist issue. So, what is the nihilist issue and how does transcendental seduction solve that issue? Firstly, we take a response to our situation in the subject-object frame. Even though in other areas I've showed that this is a kind of an idealism, it belongs with dualism, the subject and object would appear to be a pair. So the metaphysics aside, I suppose there's issues with just bringing that into dualism, but to be historical about it, you don't get the rise in dualism and its purchase on Western culture that you do without that somehow being true. And it's been true because of the nature of our conceiving of an object and the nature of our conceiving of a subject. Now, the conceiving of a subject in the West is problematic up until the 20th century, where you start to really see the breakdown and breakdown due to the failure of the concept of the Western individual, if you like, or the concept of the subject, to the point where you have in the 20th century reason to believe there is a historical product called subjectivity. So, and let's contrast that with a kind of natural subjectivity. So the idea of a human nature, I suppose, would be the contrast, although to a certain point subjectivity would be a kind of examination of human nature. But the difficulty is if your total conceptual framework or the workings that you want to show is mostly subject and object. How does a subject work in a world that is an object, so to speak? Where you have that set up, maybe there's no other room for any other views on things. So towards the end of the 19th century, Friedrich Nietzsche gives us perspectivism, and now today that plays out quite a lot in all manner of areas. We see backflips by politicians who've moved from one perspective to another, or if you like, one value to another. Only today we had the leader of our federal opposition apologise for something that he held to be true some 14 years ago. So there's a change in values. So that's a politician adapting to his time. Nothing unusual there. I think in my other video I asked for an example or suggested that the viewer finds their own example. But there's one. Someone changed their mind about something. So that means they've changed their values. So to get back to these issues, nihilism and the NAA is going to deal with the subjective need for meaning. We've got no real objective need for meaning. Where is there the claim that it is true that we shall have meaning, or true that we should have meaning? Okay. So TRS is more leading on from that, the subjective elements in philosophical questions, into what's the actual process when we do find meaning or use meaning, create meaning, fabricate meaning. I'm just going to stop there and start a new one.